This item is item 26, UC 24-0574. Use permits for the following: 1, a resort hotel, and 2, a multifamily dwelling. Waivers of development standards for the following: 1, increase the driveway width, and 2, reduce driveway approach distance. With design reviews for the following: 1, resort hotel, 2, multifamily dwelling, 3, entertainment or recreational facilities, including an arena, theater, convention area, event plaza, and outdoor pool areas. 4, all associated and accessory structure uses and structures and incidental buildings and structures on 26.33 acres in a CR commercial resort zone generally located on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard South, 920 feet south of Sahara Avenue within Winchester.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Rory Reed. I'm an attorney. Reed, Rubenstein, and Bogatz, 300 South 4th Street. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With me is Greg Borgell, our land use consultant. Nick Tomasino's to my right. He's an executive with LVXP, and Alfredo Alcantar from Paul Steelman Partners is in the audience. And I'd like to cue the video if the engineer could. It's a very brief video that will introduce the project. This project will transform the North Strip, and it will change the Las Vegas skyline forever. In very broad terms, and I'll ask Mr. Borgell to be my Vanna White if he's willing, it consists of a 18,000-seat NBA-ready arena, a resort hotel with 3 hotel towers with over 2,600 rooms and condominium units, a casino, convention areas, and a 6,000-seat theater. We have been working on this for many months with your staff, and we want to thank Comp Planning and the other departments for working with us. I want to also give a shout out to Rosemary Vasiliadis at DOA. And as you heard at the outset, after reviewing this, your staff recommends approval. The staff has recommended some conditions to go along with that approval. If you grant it, we've reviewed those closely, and we agree with them, one and all. The town board also reviewed this, had a hearing, and they recommend this to you unanimously. And if it's all right with you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to step aside. We've worked with our neighbors. I don't know if any of them are here, but I'd like to give them an opportunity to make whatever comments they'd like. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to respond, and then we'll make ourselves available to answer whatever questions you have.
Thank you so much. This is a public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? We have a willing participant.
Can I just talk here?
Good morning. That's fine.
Good morning. My name is Erin Genolis. I'm a neighbor at Turnberry Towers.
Please speak into the microphone.
A neighbor at 222 Karen Avenue. We've lived at Turnberry Towers for quite some time, and we've been excited before about the development of this specific piece of property. Our concerns, or as they've been voiced to me and my other neighbors, is this really going to happen? As you know, we dealt with AllNet year after year after year, and yet nothing. We'd like to know the timeline, financing, what can we expect? We'd love this project to come through. But again, I see AllNet on the top of this. What's their involvement? Is this just yet another development company saying, yeah, we can do this? Or is this really going to happen? Because we've been looking at an empty hole for way too long. Way too long. We want something to go in there, and we want some action. Right now, it is a not properly secured, empty hole in the ground. There's a homeless encampment in there currently. It's dirty, and we're not happy. We want this to go through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Jason Bishop. I'm the community manager for the adjacent property of Turnberry Place. And we submitted a email as well as I dropped it off with the commission last week. Assuming the project goes forward, just some kind of concerns to make the project a little smoother for the nearly 800 residents that reside just south of this potential project. That was received correct. I didn't know if you wanted me to go through each of these now. I did submit them, but I certainly can't.
They're part of the record. I think Mr. Reed is prepared to respond to some of those.
Okay, yeah, very quickly. There's 3 gates that lead on to the construction site. We were very concerned. There's one that's the most southern. It's literally like 70 feet from the nearest building. If they could use the other ones for the construction site. The other ones were just keeping Paradise clean. We have such a problem with Fontainebleau with the water there. It's kind of always underwater if you're in that section over there. From the runoff, LED signage, we've worked with Westgate. They were in Fontainebleau as well. Having the flashing videos 30 minutes before dusk, 30 minutes after dawn, because there's just so many homes over there. So to try to have that as least impactful as possible. And like we said, it certainly sounds like an exciting project for the north end of the Strip. And then certainly traffic tie-ups is our concern. There's talks about putting a light over there. It seems like the light would be more beneficial more north of Paradise because there's already a light within about 50 yards of that. And we're just worried about traffic. Is when you talk about the 18,000-seat arena, the theater, which is all very exciting, but traffic we just believe is going to be a nightmare over there. And if Turnberry Place Master Board could be a part of any traffic studies that were done, that's one of our things we would like to propose here. And and then most recently, I actually walked the site yesterday. And the fence is completely cut. It's kind of a disaster in there. I don't know when the last time someone was over there, unfortunately. But there's some vagrants living in there, and they kind of have makeshift ladders to get over to the wall to the Turnberry Place property with the 773 homes. So our security is really having to be diligent on watching that. So if we can kind of beef up some semblance of security over there until this project happens. But like I said, this was all submitted last week. And again, we're excited. It seems exciting, a very exciting project, but we just want to make sure that the residents are impacted as least as possible as well, looking out for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eddie Dyer. This is Alan Weiner. We live at Turnberry Place next door. We have a couple units there. We are supportive of the project. We're excited about something happening there. This is Vegas after all, so bigger and better is wonderful. Our concern is more so just the layout and design of it. I don't know if it's just something that's been thrown out there, but basically it's a series of buildings lined up contiguously, which makes it basically a 70-story wall or 50-story wall from the Strip to Paradise. And there's already one wall on one side of the Turnberry properties. This would be another wall. And I guess I just question, from the developer standpoint, the entire property, when you configure it that way, would be a shadow. So I don't know who would really want to go to a pool that's in a constant shadow. If you take an aerial view of all the major properties on the Strip, the pools are always on the west or the south side. This, all the pools and all the property and all the access area is all in a shadow. So I'm just curious, is this really, is just something thrown out there? I mean, we like the idea of all the things that are there, but just the way that it's lined up and facing linearly as a wall that high, it doesn't make sense from what it would do to the property values at Turnberry, number one, because everyone would be staring at this giant wall no matter how high you are, but also just why would you want a resort design that it's going to be dark the whole time? I'm just questioning it. So if it's being redesigned and it's just kind of something thrown out there, again, we're supportive. We like the idea of something happening. We would just like it laid out a little bit differently.
And also the property values, I don't know if any of you were.
I'm sorry, you need to state your name and spell your last name,
Oh,
please.
Alan Weiner, W-E-I-N-E-R. I don't know if any of you guys were involved with the approval, SOFR's approval of Turnberry Place and the Fountain Blue Garage. The people that bought there were told it was going to be underground 2 stories. It ended up being 22 stories. It destroyed property values in all the apartments in Turnberry Place, destroyed it. This will destroy it also for just under 800 units. You know, I've been in real estate, I know what that does. And have you guys seen the parking garage from the perspective of Turnberry? Any of you? The Fountain Blue parking garage?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we can't comment during public comment.
Okay, well, that was approved and it wrecked property values. This will destroy it there, which, I mean, there's other ways to lay this out, as there was other ways to do that, and they approved that. So it needs a redesign, complete redesign.
All right, thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Delabose, Tower 1, Turnberry Place, 2877 Paradise Road, Suite 1002. I'm here as a resident of Turnberry. My issue basically has to do with the amount of input and buy-in that the developer has solicited from the surrounding neighbors. Having spoken with Paul Buller, our general manager for the Turnberry Place Homeowners Association, Paul said that his total involvement with these people was a call in May of this year letting him know that there was activity going on next door, would be, potentially. And after the town board meeting where this was brought up, as far as the lack of citizen outreach, which was not the case with the prior project. The prior project held 3 public meetings, 2 at the Mesquite Club on St. Louis, 1 at the Las Vegas Country Club. I can provide sign-in sheets of the hundreds of people that were at those meetings to garner input, just like the input that these 2 gentlemen proffered prior to me coming up here, so that the project that would end up being laid out on that site would be empathetic and sympathetic to the surrounding neighborhood. Didn't happen. Don't have any idea why, other than perhaps hubris. I don't know. You tell me. That's an open question. But anytime you live in a neighborhood, I feel it's incumbent upon you as a newbie in the neighborhood to get with the people that have been there. I've been at Turnberry Place 18 years, so I believe I speak from a position of a right to talk about it. And I do not feel that any of our concerns as a community were ever addressed, let alone even asked about. And I find that very, very interesting. I also find it a rather uncomfortable and unfortunate. That sets a precedent in my mind for what kind of neighbors you have the anticipation of experiencing as time goes on over the years. If the people that move next door to you have absolutely no concern with you and don't care about you, you know what you can get from those people. And it's probably not going to be a satisfactory ongoing relationship. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elisa Steinhauer. I'm an attorney. I sent a letter to all the commissioners. I want to verify if you all received that letter? Did you
Yes.
receive my letter?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And I also sent that letter to Sammy Real. Is Sammy here as well?
She's not, but Jennifer, who's her assistant, is, and
Oh,
she
okay.
acknowledged she got it.
And did her assistant get a chance to review that letter?
Yes, we received the letter and reviewed it.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we did receive the letter and
Okay.
reviewed it.
And my address is 5940 South Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 2000, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89118. Well, basically, the letter itself for public services, for the public, has to deal with the fact that there's been some disparate treatment here in the fact that the Allnet project was required, and Commissioner G had insisted that the Allnet project go through 3 town hall meetings prior to their first meeting with the Winchester Town Board. I do have a sheet here, and I have emails between Attorney Chris Kempfer where he was stating that Commissioner G has required that they have these meetings and that where they should be, that these meetings should be at the Mesquite Club on East St. Louis, thus costing Mr. Robinson $4,000 for each one of these meetings. 3. That's a total of $12,000 that they had to expend. This group, they didn't have to expend that. Now, that's disparate treatment. Why did they not have to paper the local community according to Title 30? They are required, according to Title 30, they are required area notice for a major project initiated by a property owner after a pre-application conference and prior to the board hearing on a specific plan. The developer shall notify property owners inside and within 2,500 feet of the proposed planning area to provide information on the proposed project, to allow opportunity for public input, and to address the rights and obligations of the property owners within the planning area. The developer shall notify the county of the date, time, and location of the meeting. If the proposed major project has been initiated by the board, then the board would be the ones to notify.
That completes your 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Next, please.
I am requesting that the town hall board meeting be vacated and that decision be rescinded based on their violation of the statute. And as you all know, who are attorneys here, that when you break a statute, they violated the law.
Thank
And
you
this
so
court
much.
will be doing, this
Next,
commission
please.
will be doing the same thing. They will be breaking the law
Mr.
by
Marshall.
allowing this to continue without the legal notification according to Title 30. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Vicki Bradshaw. I'm a resident at Turnberry Place, Tower 2. I'm also a member of the Master Board as well as the HOA of my own tower. I attended the one and only meeting that this project had, and it was only with the members of the Master Board. I think it was 2 weeks ago. One thing that I would request is that the commissioners not allow any major construction to begin until there is a verification that the financing has been secured, as we've gone through a number of projects around our community that have started and then stopped for a good number of years. But I think in total, we are supportive of having a project on this site, but there are some conditions, and I think we wrote, Mr. Buller wrote a letter to you identifying some of the reasonable conditions if a permit is issued. But most importantly, we don't want major construction to begin unless the commission has verified that they have the $10 billion that they say this is going to cost secured in their financing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and ask Mr. Reed to come back up. Rob, with respect to that issue, can you answer that?
Yeah, I received Ms. Steinhauser's letter, and she's referring to the old code, first of all. And secondly, she's referring to, I guess, some volunteer meetings that Commissioner June Kiliani requested years ago.
It wasn't a request, it was an insistent and an...
Please, we're going to,
They're not, those, under the current code, those meetings aren't required, and this applicant has satisfied all notice requirements and all meeting requirements.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate the neighbors' involvement in this process, and let me defend our outreach generally. I was going to make the point that Mr. Warhola just did. We met with a group of neighbors in May, right before we, at Turnberry, right before we filed the application. We had a long conversation with them at the community center after the town board meeting and agreed to meet, and there was a subsequent meeting prior to this meeting, and the result of that is the letter that the community manager referred to, where they outlined the concerns they had. And I just want to bring those up and let you know what our response is so that you are aware that we are responsive to the neighbors. In no particular order, they expressed concerns about, and we understand, given the fraught history of this property, they expressed concerns about what would happen if this project, what would happen if we don't do what we say we're going to do. And they suggested that we should have a decommissioning plan and a performance agreement. The conditions that I mentioned that your staff suggested that we have agreed to require that. Until we negotiate a decommissioning plan with you and a performance agreement, we cannot receive a building permit. The second item that the neighbors were concerned about was water. The gentleman mentioned that. Again, the conditions that we've agreed to require us to have a drainage study done and to comply with it. And we also will seek a dewatering permit. The conditions of that will require us to address the interests that the neighbors are concerned about. Third, traffic. We have agreed to a traffic study and that we will comply with it. There was some discussion about where signals should be located, and it's hard to speak to a specific issue at this point, and that discussion should occur comprehensively once a traffic study has been done, and then we share the neighbors' interests and the public interests. We want the free flow of traffic in and out of their neighborhood, in and out of this project, and the way to achieve that, to make sure that the public interest is met and ours as a developer, is to have a traffic study done, and then you should require us to comply with that, and we've agreed to it. Signage. There was concern about the signage. That video you saw was, artistic in nature. We haven't submitted a sign package yet. We will, and we should address that issue comprehensively, and we are willing to accept the condition that that sign package be considered in a public hearing so that the neighbors' concerns are addressed regarding signage. They had concerns about what would go, how their property would be affected by construction on this site. The gentleman mentioned the gates on the property. There's 3 gates. Their concern is that the southernmost gate would impact them directly, and we would agree that construction traffic will be directed to the north and center driveways away from the southern driveway, provided this accommodation can be achieved safely and effectively. That's the same condition that you imposed on previous developments on this site. We would agree to that as well, and that should address the neighbor's concern. There was concern about Paradise Road and dirt on the road. We have agreed to enter a development agreement with the county. Typically, a development agreement has a dust mitigation plan. Further, the law would require us to ensure that Paradise Road isn't impacted in that way, so the neighbor's concerns should be addressed. The only issue in the letter that you received from the neighbors that we take issue with is a limitation on work hours. They didn't want noisy activities during certain times of the day. As a owner of a project, we're subject to other laws, OSHA and the like, and we can't require our workers to work during the heat of the day. And we're not aware of another project on the Strip where you've limited the hours of construction in the way that they've suggested, particularly in an ambiguous way for that. So that's the only provision in that letter they referred to that we would take issue with. As to the fence, that's an ongoing battle. We spent a whole bunch of money. I don't know if you remember what the site was like before, and there's now a fence that's been constructed around it to protect the site and to improve public safety. From time to time, there's mischief done, and when we become aware of it, we fix it. I think that's everything that the letter covered and that the neighbors mentioned. And I think this displays our willingness to continue to work with the neighbors. And this will be an ongoing process. Will not be the last development of this intensity. We're going to be back. Our plans may change a little bit. We may need to make adjustments. And we're going to be back to talk about all the issues I discussed. And we'll continue, as we have done, continue to involve the neighbors along the way. So I'll end where I began. This is a transformative project, and it will change the North Strip. It will create millions of dollars of tax revenue for our community, thousands of construction jobs and permanent jobs. It will benefit our community. We commend it to you, and we seek your favorable consideration. And we're available to answer any questions you have.
Public Works, do you have a?
Thank you, Commissioner. Since I offered the condition, I feel like I can amend a condition. I'd like to amend my last condition. It allows them a few permits prior to their civil submittal, and if I could just amend it just to add a few words. So the condition is allow the following permits prior to approval of off-site permits: all demolition, grading, including underground utilities, dewatering, foundation, and structural first lift with foundation. I'd like to add as determined by Public Works. The Building Department and Public Works have different definitions of what a structural first lift is, and I want to clarify and make sure we're on the same page so that we don't allow them more than that.
That's acceptable to us.
All right. And before I get into questions, there was an issue about the height and FAA approval. You've got the approval for even the crane, right?
Yes, we reduced the height, working with DOA, and we have FAA approval on the building and the cranes.
All right. Thank you. Any commissioners have comments? We have a former professional basketball player on the floor here. Did you have anything, Ross, you wanted to add about the NBA stadium that Commissioner Naft is going to lose and we're going to get?
This is off the subject, but his jump shot isn't what it used to be, sir.
All right. Seeing no comments, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the staff conditions and the amendment made. No.
Commissioners, if I may, do you want to add the condition about the construction traffic?
Yes.
No. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There's a motion. Cast your vote.
Thank you
That
very much.
motion passes. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Borgell, for being so silent.
I'm working on it all the time.
Next item